Chapter 500 Phoenix covering retreat. An avenging spirit flew in front of Yu Guyi. If she were an ordinary soul emperor, she would have to be very cautious when facing an evil soul master. If she wasn't cautious enough, her spiritual sea might be affected. However, against Yu Guyi, she only shone with golden light before the avenging spirit screamed tragically and vanished. The power of purification even caused the avenging spirit to be sucked into Yu Guyi's body to replenish her and increase her cultivation. As a result, Yu Guyi's fighting strength was fully unleashed as she fought under the Ice Bear King's protection. She was the nightmare of every evil soul master. Huo Yuao had risked everything to save her before because she could naturally curb evil soul masters. As Yu Guyi's abilities increased, her deterrence against evil soul masters grew stronger, too. Yu Guyi was already close to becoming a soul sage. After this fight, she was confident that she could make a breakthrough to become a soul sage. When that happened, her holy angel would have 4 wings, and her overall abilities would greatly increase. She wouldn't be afraid even against an evil soul Douluo. Nanqikai followed beside Yu Guyi, coordinating with her. Yu Guyi's holy angel was the most effective against evil soul masters, while Nanqikai was using her ruby dragon's annihilation abilities to protect her, enabling Yu Guyi's offensive power to be unleashed to the limit. It wasn't just Nanqikai. Xiao was also protecting Yu Guyi. Her 3 live soul crush cauldron was used as a control-type martial soul to isolate Yu Guyi from their enemies. This prevented too many enemies from appearing directly in front of her, allowing Yu Guyi to better unleash her abilities. Apart from the 3 of them, everyone else also demonstrated their powers. Zhang Nanan's abilities had greatly increased ever since she had fused with the ruby soft tendon python spirit. Right now, a python over 3 meters long ran riot on the battlefield. The strangest part of it was that it possessed the abilities that Zhang Nanan had. Just this alone was enough to make it as strong as Shu Sanchi's golden tortoise. Zhang Nanan had already transformed into her martial soul true body at this moment, but it wasn't her soft bone rabbit. Rather, she had fused her true body into her ruby soft tendon python, increasing her spirit's abilities greatly. She relied on the size of her python to disrupt proceedings on the battlefield, and the evil soul masters were unable to gather. Xiaoya. Bei shouted at Tanya, who had already raised her blue silver tyrant spear. Tanya's body shook. She was already hesitating a little. When she heard Bei's call, her actions slowed even further. Bei removed his Dragon Emperor's realm quake and slowly walked towards Tanya. With every step he took, his body dimmed slightly. After 3 steps, his dragon scales had completely disappeared, and his martial soul had even been retracted. He revealed his true appearance. Xiaoya, I'm Bei. Do you remember me? Bei walked towards Tanya. Shu Sanchi held his golden swan shield tightly, and suddenly swept his hand across his body. His shield flew out and struck a few evil soul emperors that were charging over. He was worried about Bei. However, he couldn't stop him at this moment. From that earlier moment, he had already seen the determined look in Bei's eyes. Even though he was very close to Bei, it was his first time seeing such a look in his eyes. He knew that Bei had already made up his mind. No matter what, he had to try. As a brother, he couldn't stop him. If he were in such a situation with Zhang Nanan, he would also do the same thing. Bei, come on. Shu Sanchi shouted silently, and focused his gaze on Tanya. Once something went wrong, he would dash in to save Bei immediately. Tanya was a little dazed as she stood there. There was still a large bunch of dark blue silver grass dancing around her feet. However, they didn't attack. The sharp blue silver tyrant spear flashed with a dark blue light. Its dominant aura made it felt like it could pierce through the sky. However, she didn't thrust it toward Bei. Bei was still walking toward her. His gaze became even gentler, and there wasn't even a streak of soul power undulations coming from him. Xiaoya, I won't do anything to you. How can I possibly hurt you? You are my Xiaoya, and you'll always be. If you want to attack, then kill me. I'm willing even if my blood stains your body. Don't come over. Tanya suddenly shouted. This was also her first time speaking on this battlefield. Her voice was no longer as cold and indifferent as it was before. Rather, she sounded a little afraid and panicky. After hearing her speak, Shu Sanchi heaved a sigh of relief. Tanya's emotions were roused after seeing Bei. This meant that he was still in her memory. Bei didn't listen to Tanya, and continued to walk forward. He wasn't very far from Tanya to begin with, and now, he was almost in front of her. Don't come over. Tanya's voice turned a little sharper. Her icy cold eyes were filled with indecision. Xiaoya. I'm Bei. Bei continued to walk forward. He was calling Tanya's name as if he were calling his own wife. Finally, he was in front of her. She didn't move her spear. It was even shaking in her grip. Bei was now right in front of the spear, but he didn't stop. He walked directly into the spear, and the tip of the spear pierced his shoulder. There was a trace of red on the tip of the spear, which spread along the dark patterns on it. As Tanya's cultivation increased, the spear was able to absorb blood. As it absorbed blood, it also fused the dark poison elements inside it into the enemy's blood. Bei turned pale, but his gaze was still as gentle as ever. Xiaoya, I'm Bei. Seeing that the tip of her spear had pierced Bei's shoulder, Tanya was stunned, and just looked at him in a daze. It was like she was looking at some unbelievable thing. Bei moved another inch forward. Immediately, the spear pierced deeper into him. From the start until the end, Bei didn't reveal a painful look on his face. There was only a gentle look throughout. Xiaoya, I'm Bei. Bei continued to call softly. Tanya started to shout frantically, and furiously let go of the spear in her hand. Without her soul power, her spear immediately dissipated, and turned into streaks of dark blue light that disappeared into the air. The blue silver grass around Tanya also instantly disappeared. Her face was very pale, and her body started to shake tremendously. Her hands were on her head. My head hurts. It hurt so much. Bei resisted the pain in his shoulder and rushed forward, hugging Tanya, even though Tanya's body was icy cold right now, and was filled with an intense aura of darkness. When Bei hugged her, tears flowed from her eyes uncontrollably. How many years had it been? Ever since Tanya went missing, it had been many years. He was finally able to hold her in his arms again. Xiaoya, you don't know how blissful I feel right now. No matter what price I have to pay, I'll treat you. Seeing that Bei had succeeded, Shu Sanchi was delighted. He charged towards Bei and whispered, all right, let's go quickly, so that we can ask little Junior to leave. Bei twisted to look at him and nodded quickly. After that, he carried Tanya away and fled towards the masquerade Douluo's tent. The door to the spectral demiplane was already open. The command tent of the Sun Moon Empire. As the imperial tutor and leader of the Holy Ghost Church, Zhongli sat in the main seat. Even Lin Hai was only sitting by his side. A large number of orders had already been passed down. The entire base was busy with this fight. Zhongli was very grim. Apart from Lin Hai, there were also many other commanders from the Sun Moon Empire inside the tent. As Zhongli and the 6 consecrated from the Holy Ghost Church's worship hall were inside the tent, they were all afraid. Why is no one reporting after so long? What's with your soldiers? Zhongli asked Lin Hai. Lin Hai furrowed his brow and said, this shouldn't be happening. It's been some time. The messengers should be constantly reporting information. After a series of orders were passed down earlier, the command tent had quieted down. They had been waiting for some time already, but no further messengers had arrived. How was the fight continuing on without any commands? Oh. Zhongli's expression suddenly changed. He stood up immediately. Things aren't right. Why is it so quiet? Even if the command tent can isolate noise quite well, there should be some movement outside. Let's go out and take a look. As he spoke, he headed out. Of course, no messengers came. This was because the masquerade Douluo was outside. After setting up the spiritual barrier, Huo Yuao had already stopped 3 waves of messengers. With the spiritual barrier isolating all noises from outside, those 3 waves of messengers were tricked into a dark corner beside the command tent through Huo Yuao's spiritual interference domain. They were also unconscious. The curtains of the tent were pulled open, and Zhongli was the first to walk out. Seeing that Zhongli had come out, Huo Yuao was alarmed. Things hadn't finished on the other side. Not everyone had retreated yet. Huo Yuao knew that they were fighting for time right now. Every second would make his teammates safer. Bei had just picked up Xiaoya and was about to retreat towards his tent. Huo Yuao's spiritual detection engulfed the entire battlefield. He knew everything that was happening. Time. Huo Yuao suddenly thought of something, and quickly rushed forward 2 steps. He screamed in panic. Sect leader, things aren't going well. We've been ambushed by people from Shrek Academy. Although he was screaming, he was blocking Zhongli's path. What? After walking out of the tent, Douluo immediately sensed something amiss. What's with that weird soul power undulation in the air? Why did I not sense anything earlier? However, he couldn't be bothered with that at this moment. He hurriedly shouted, all consecrated, follow me to deal with the enemy. However, a strong blizzard suddenly raged in at that moment. Under Huo Yuao's command, the Ice Bear King had been suppressing his abilities all this while, and didn't unleash his blizzard at its full strength. But now, the area covered by the blizzard instantly expanded. Visibility was greatly reduced, preventing the sect leader and the consecrated of the Holy Ghost Church from seeing clearly. All sensing through soul power was reduced to its weakest because of this extremely powerful domain-type soul skill. Douluo shouted furiously and smacked his right hand forward. A ball of strong purple light was released from his palm. This purple light spread through the air, turning into dark purple balls. Wherever these balls passed, the snowflakes in the air would melt and disappear. He couldn't be bothered with the blizzard at all, and charged directly towards the battlefield. He was very confident in his abilities as a titled Douluo. On the other side, everyone from Shrek Academy also quickly fled as they saw Bei carrying Xiaoyu away. Elder Song smacked her palm toward the third elder, critically hurting him, spitting out blood in the process. However, she couldn't be bothered to deal him a final, lethal blow before she turned into a streak of jade green light that immediately flashed away, shooting straight towards Douluo. If no one stopped the oncoming Holy Ghost Church members, they wouldn't be able to flee. Yan Xiaosh's sixth soul ring rose. The reason why he and Elder Song couldn't kill the third and fourth elders quickly was because they were suppressing their power. They couldn't risk generating strong soul power undulations that Douluo might discover. Huo Yuao was able to isolate noise and soul power undulations, but the truth would still be exposed if the tremors in the ground were too strong. But at this moment, there was nothing for them to hide anymore. Yan Xiaosh unleashed his full powers. A bright golden phoenix fluttered its wings and collided with the fourth elder. At the same time, it flew straight towards the oncoming evil soul masters, and forced the evil soul masters pestering the people from the Tang Sect back. They naturally took this opportunity to charge straight back to Huo Yuao's tent. Yan Xiaosh followed Elder Song closely. After he fused into the back of the golden phoenix, he unleashed his martial soul true body. His ninth soul ring also shone. A sonorous and deafening phoenix scream rose. Yan Xiaosh's phoenix true body grew incredibly in size, his wings extending more than 100 meters across. Strong phoenix flames rose before they shot towards the ground. Every one of these flames was shaped like a phoenix. The strong roar of light even caused Little Bai's blizzard to dissipate temporarily. The originally dark sky brightened up at this moment. A bright golden fire was burning, and the radiant phoenix in the sky was shining with an elegant radiance. This was Yan Xiaosh's ninth soul skill, Phoenix Descent. It was his strongest soul skill. At this instant, he seemed to have completely transformed into a true god beast phoenix. The strong light elements oppressed Douluo and the six consecrated, stalling them slightly, just long enough for the flames to engulf them. Douluo and the others had charged out anxiously when they realized the pressing situation on the battlefield. Whereas Yan Xiaosh was warned by Huo Yuao, he was already prepared and didn't hesitate to unleash his strongest soul skill. Elder Song also shone with green light. She had turned into her green shadow godly eagle before Yan Xiaosh had transformed. When the Phoenix Descent was unleashed, the godly eagle instantly flashed in the air. At that instant, even Huo Yuao only saw a green light flashing by, followed by the appearance of a jade green light. Right now, the green shadow godly eagle was no longer like a martial soul anymore. It was more like an artistic piece that had been carved from jade. The speed of the eagle reached its extreme as she reached Douluo. Douluo didn't have time to unleash his martial soul true body, as he had no choice. He could only defend with all his might. Under such a circumstance, Elder Song's abilities were unleashed to their greatest, along with the fact that the evil soul masters had to resist the flames from the Phoenix true body. All seven of them were flung away as they were struck by Elder Song. It was Elder Song's ninth soul skill, Emerald Refinement. Douluo's cultivation was close to Elder Song's, but he was an evil soul master. If they were in a duel, Elder Song could only use her speed to fight him. She might not be his match. However, given the current situation, Douluo was still flung away, even though he wasn't hurt. Huo Yuao let out a tragic scream within the flames before he disappeared. After all, the flames came from a transcendent Douluo. Its terrifying power could kill an ordinary titled Douluo. Everyone from the Tang Sect took this opportunity to rush into Huo Yuao's tent. They concealed themselves within the blizzard and made their way into Huo Yuao's spectral demiplane. A white halo was suddenly released from the flames, mass enfeeblement. The surrounding space distorted from his spiritual interference domain. Douluo wanted to fly back, but he suddenly felt a wave of strong spiritual power striking him. He groaned in the air and his body shone with purple light. However, his body only shook, and he stopped. Leave. Yan Xiaosh ordered. Huo Yuao knew that he was helpless in a fight of this tier. He had hit Songli Wu with his strongest spiritual shock, but only felt a spiritual backlash. He didn't dare to stop, and quickly fled. At the same time, he said to Nangong Wan, who was playing dead, the restrictions in your spiritual sea will disappear after 3 days. You don't have to do anything. Nangong Wan was playing dead after he was knocked away. To make it even more real, he even intentionally hurt himself, breaking a few of his bones. After hearing Huo Yuao's words, he couldn't do anything but believe. If he tried to probe further, he might expose himself. Huo Yuao called the Ice Bear King and quickly retreated into his tent. A beam of jade green light shone behind them. They only felt that they became lighter before they rushed into the tent. Quickly, go. Elder Song's voice came to them. Huo Yuao said, no, Elder Song, leave with Little Bai first. I'll wait for Dean Yan. I need to shut this door myself. If I leave, it could be exposed. Elder Song said, don't worry. You don't have to care about him. Xiaosh has a way of escaping. Let's leave first. Quick. What? Huo Yuao was doubtful, but he couldn't suspect Elder Song's words. He didn't dare to stall any further, and quickly entered the door with Little Bai. Elder Song followed them. After entering the demiplane, Elder Song immediately said to Huo Yuao, shut the door. Dean Yan. Huo Yuao was shocked as he looked at Elder Song. Are we not waiting for Dean Yan? Elder Song smiled and replied, don't worry, Xiaosh really has a way of escaping. Do you really think it's so easy being the dean of the martial soul department? He shares the same teacher as you. If he's not capable enough, how could he become the heir to the master of the Sea God's Pavilion? Huo Yuao quickly shut the door. As the door shut, the entire demiplane was dissociated from the Douluo continent. At this moment, the evil soul masters couldn't find them no matter how strong they were. Of course, if Huo Yuao and the others wanted to return, they would still need to return to the base. However, it would only be him then. It would be much easier for him to flee in those circumstances. He didn't need to rush things now. It was better for things to settle down first. In the plan that Huo Yuao had set, Yan Xiaosh had volunteered to cover any retreat. Huo Yuao naturally knew how strong he was. Such an arrangement was naturally appropriate. However, things didn't proceed as smoothly as planned. After the explosion, the Holy Ghost Church's sect leader didn't send anyone to check on things. This was a surprise to Huo Yuao. He had underestimated how selfish evil soul masters were. The command tent was too close to the battlefield. The sect leader had still managed to discover an issue. It would be too dangerous for him to cover any retreat. Even if he wanted to, he didn't possess the ability to do so. He was even afraid that Nangong Wan would expose his disguise as the masquerade Douluo. However, it would be fine if everyone could retreat safely. However, who knew that Yan Xiaosh wouldn't choose to leave? The plan was almost perfect. The only flaw was that Yan Xiaosh didn't leave with them. Right now, Huo Yuao figured that Dean Yan must have some kind of trump card as he saw the smile on Elder Song's face. The blizzard disappeared, but the phoenix flames were still raging. The entire sky was illuminated by golden light. The Sun Moon Empire's flying soul engineers were quickly assembling in this direction. This was where the command tent was, at the core of the entire base. If things went wrong here, there would be great trouble. Yan Xiaosh's Phoenix Descent greatly suppressed Douluo and six consecrated, and they weren't able to break free from his flames. Not only did these phoenix flames contain a pure aura of life, but they were also burning like flames of ultimate fire. To be caught within these phoenix flames was like being dragged into a quagmire. Although the evil soul masters were very strong, and there were even a few transcendent Douluo among them, they could only passively defend as they were suppressed by the flames. Yan Xiaosh controlled the flames immaculately, and didn't care how fast he was being drained. Whichever evil soul master tried to charge over was immediately struck by the flames he was controlling. Yan Xiaosh, you're caught in death. Li Wu snorted coldly. He wasn't anxious anymore. His body flashed with purple light, and he allowed the flames to attack him. He stood there without moving. Yan Xiaosh's overwhelming attack was aimed at a large area. Even if he were a transcendent Douluo, he would be greatly drained, yet he ignored all costs. Under such circumstances, he wouldn't be able to last long. Once he couldn't hold on anymore, he would be doomed. There were so many evil soul masters. Was it even possible they could not deal with a transcendent Douluo in a weakened state? The masquerade Douluo had disappeared within the flames. Li Wu personally witnessed it. He felt extremely sorry. Every titled Douluo was an important asset to the Holy Ghost Church, even though the masquerade Douluo's cultivation was likely to remain stagnant. Furthermore, he didn't know how many losses his side had incurred. How were the second, third, and fourth elders? Don't tell me they're dead too. Impossible. From that earlier aura, there seemed to only be 3 transcendent Douluo from Shrek Academy. How could they kill 4 of our titled Douluo, although there's only 3 of them? They even did it so quickly. Li Wu had already calmed down as he basked in the flames. However, he couldn't understand why Shrek Academy would suddenly attack. Such a short ambush can't possibly cause any damage. How did they get in? They just attacked us, and now they're leaving. They even got the Radiant Phoenix Douluo Yan Xiaosh to cover their retreat. This is unbelievable. If they're trading the masquerade Douluo for the Radiant Phoenix Douluo, it's definitely not worth it. The Radiant Phoenix Douluo is the heir to the Master of the Sea Gods Pavilion. If not for the fact that Elder Mu died too early, Elder Sun wouldn't have become the master at all. Yan Xiaosh would have been the next master of the Sea Gods Pavilion. After pondering for a moment, Li Wu finally had a clue. No matter what was happening, he had to do his best to kill Yan Xiaosh. As long as Yan Xiaosh died, the losses they had suffered this time would be worth it. The flames grew weaker and weaker, just like Li Wu had judged. Even a transcendent Douluo couldn't last long maintaining such a strong attack. Yan Xiaosh. A cold and sinister voice rang across the sky. Even the flames retracted slightly as they were suppressed. Before the flames were completely extinguished, Li Wu snorted, and his back started to shine with purple light. He turned into an elderly, purplish figure, which pointed in Yan Xiaosh's direction. Li Wu's 8th soul ring flashed with light. A streak of purplish light as thin as a needle instantly swept across the sky. Wherever that streak of purplish light passed, even the flames were instantly pierced. Yan Xiaosh groaned in the air. Li Wu flashed away, and he finally broke free from the flames, which were also extinguished at this moment. Yan Xiaosh regained his human form and landed on the ground, staggering a little. There was a ball of purplish flame burning on his chest. He struggled to support himself. The 6 consecrated had already quickly surrounded him. 2 were in the sky and 4 were on the ground, trapping him. Li Wu was in front of him. This was a trap even a transcendent Douluo like him couldn't break free from. Yan Xiaosh, where do you think you're escaping to? Li Wu cursed coldly. Yan Xiaosh smiled. Why should I run? Since I chose to stay, I have no intention of leaving. You've been thinking too much. Oh. Li Wu was stunned. He hadn't expected Yan Xiaosh to be so composed, even though he was encircled and had been struck by his 8th soul skill, the Godly Death Needle. The Godly Death Needle looked as thin as a strand of hair, but it was so strong that it could pierce through a mountain. It was specifically used to overcome all types of protective soul skills. Among all the current soul skills that Li Wu knew about, none of them could resist his Godly Death Needle. To avoid being hurt, one could only try to avoid it. However, the Godly Death Needle could lock onto its targets, and wasn't that easy to avoid. The purplish flame on Yan Xiaosh's chest came from the Godly Death Needle. He was using the strength of his Phoenix flames to resist the Godly Death Needle. Li Wu wasn't bothered by the fact at all. If his Godly Death Needle was so easy to deal with, it wouldn't be fit to be his 8th soul skill. When this needle entered any biological entity, it would spark a kind of flame called the Withering Flame. No matter what the elemental type of a soul power was, it would be destroyed under the Withering Flame. It was like a soul master burning his soul power and spiritual sea. This Withering Flame expedited the combustion of one's soul power and spiritual sea, and the soul master couldn't possibly extinguish the flame. During the process of combustion, no overwhelming fighting strength was unleashed. Instead, the soul master would slowly experience a decline. Li Wu glanced around at the others from the Holy Ghost Church and said coldly, "Do you really think you're going to get lucky?" He looked extremely grim. Not many of the people from the Holy Ghost Church could stand up. The 3rd and 4th elders appeared to be critically hurt and struggled to crawl to their feet. Nangong even acted like he couldn't get up. Worse, the blue silver holy lady was nowhere to be seen. Li Wu was now intent on exacting revenge. This last thing infuriated him like nothing else. It was important to know that the blue silver holy lady and the Phoenix holy lady were the successors that he had nurtured. The Phoenix holy lady was still receiving treatment at the Holy Ghost Church's headquarters because of the evil fire in her body. On the other hand, things were going very smoothly with the blue silver holy lady. According to the current situation, her mind would be completely purified, and she would completely lose her sense of self. They were known as successors not because they would rule the Holy Ghost Church in the future, but because they would become some of the strongest individuals in the church. Li Wu was very aware that his mother and Long Xiao were already very old. It was difficult to tell how much longer they could live. How could an evil soul master sect like the Holy Ghost Church remain powerful without any ultimate Douluo? If the 2 of them died, everyone was bound to gang up on them. The Holy Ghost Church had a secret method that could stimulate a soul master's abilities, allowing their followers to grow rapidly. However, there was a negative side to this secret method. It completely corroded a person's mind, and they would believe that they were just killing machines. With such a secret method, an extremely talented soul master could be gradually improved, and could possibly become an ultimate Douluo. However, the soul master had to be introspective. His body had to be pure enough, and his martial soul had to be appropriate. Tang Yu and Ma Xiaotao were candidates that he had found suitable. Comparatively speaking, Ma Xiaotao was much more talented. After her Phoenix flames fused with the evil fire, it would evolve into ultimate fire. Once she became an ultimate Douluo, she would be an ultimate fire Douluo. She would be even stronger than Yu Shishui and Long Xiaoyao. However, Ma Xiaotao wasn't very compatible with the secret method, exactly because she was too talented, and her flames were too domineering. It was very difficult to corrode her mind. Although there was some effect, her mind wasn't greatly affected, even after all this time. Although Tanya wasn't as talented as Ma Xiaotao, she was much more compatible with the secret method. After she consumed the medicine, her mind had been completely devoured by the evil poison. Her cultivation had increased greatly. In terms of rank, she was almost at Ma Xiaotao's standard. Once Tanya became a titled Douluo, the secret method would be completed. When that happened, only some special articles would be needed to help keep her under control. In the future, she was bound to become the Holy Ghost Church's biggest trump card. When Yu Shishui and Long Xiaoyao were no longer around, Tanya would be present to ensure that the Holy Ghost Church could last another 100 years without falling. Because of how important she was, Li Wu had kept the Scorpion Tiger Douluo with her to protect her. However, Tanya had disappeared. It was important to know that the Holy Ghost Church had used a lot of resources on Tanya. After all, Li Wu wasn't just nurturing an extremely powerful ultimate Douluo. He also had to ensure that she would enjoy great longevity after she became an ultimate Douluo. It was the only way he could maximize the benefits to the sect. Tanya's disappearance was even more heartbreaking than the masquerade Douluo's death. He was so furious now that he wanted to completely annihilate Shrek Academy right now. Yan Xiaosh, where did you take the blue silver holy lady? Li Wu asked coldly. Yan Xiaosh smiled and said, "What blue silver holy lady? I don't know who you're talking about." Li Wu snorted furiously. "You're already here. Why are you still acting? Do you really think I won't dare to kill you? No, that would be too easy on you. I'll make you my puppet, a puppet that's a transcendent Douluo. Our soul will never reincarnate." After hearing his threats, Yan Xiaosh was still smiling and appeared very composed. Li Wu, you think too much. Quickly, go and save those who are hurt. I won't play with you anymore. Bye. As he spoke, Yan Xiaosh suddenly burned with golden flames. Even the purple flames on his chest were devoured by these golden flames. Then, he slowly disappeared into the fires. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.